Okay, this is a sponsored video and I'm so excited. I got a free copy of the Ripper 93's adventure module titled Oblivion Dance Through Time. He gave it to me so that I could review it for you guys and let you know what this is all about. And I'm so excited. The fact that I can even look at it, I'm so excited. So let's start with a little brief summary. So this adventure focuses on a mysterious place called Rador Thal Gokum. There was a pronunciation guide for that and I'm probably still botched it. It radiates a magic that has bound essentially fragments of time together. The dwarves constructed this place to kind of harness that power and use it, and ultimately it led to their doom. Your players are now gifted with these bracelets that allow them to traverse through time to figure out the mysteries of this place, hopefully avert destruction before Oblivion claims them. This adventure was created for D&D 5th edition and is optimized for 5 players, either 8th level if you're using 2014 rules, or 7th level if you're using 2024 rules. I'm so glad that people are actually putting that differentiation right now. The maps are by the Mad Cartographer, so if you're a fan of his maps, you know the quality there is going to be A+. The music is by Michael Gelfi Studios and Sonus GDC bundle. You know how much I love the Michael Gelfi stuff, so that was exciting as well. And the artwork is by Beto Lima. Hopefully I got that correct. They did all of the token art, some of the overarching photos and things, and they're so beautiful and I love them. This adventure itself is broken up into 4 chapters and an epilogue. And this is the part that might get a little bit spoilery. So if you're not a GM and you don't want the spoils, please use the timestamps down below to skip ahead. I'm gonna try to summarize the chapters for you guys a little bit so you can get a sense of what to expect and what kind of adventure you're providing your players. It's just gonna be a summary because there's kind of a lot to this and there's so many rooms, so I don't want to give everything away. Skip ahead now if you don't want spoils. Chapter 1, players get their kind of first hint at the complexities of this huge lab. They learn about their bracelets that help them time travel. We'll talk about that aspect in a little bit. And their first goal is going to be repair the elevator or the lift. To go deeper into the lab, they need to both repair it with parts they find in caches, and they also need to find an access code, both of which will require them to time travel. Chapter 2 is all about puzzles. Essentially, there's a barrier preventing players from really going through. They can traverse through it, it seems, but it's gonna be really hard. They need to get rid of this barrier so they can go into the advanced laboratory section. This will also kind of teach them some of the lore and history behind the laboratory and what has happened to the dwarves. And then chapter 3 is where we're gonna get into those advanced labs. Now that the barrier is gone, players can easily traverse, but so can the experiments. There's gonna be a lot of fighting in this part leading up to the final chapter, where of course they face the big bad guy, Oblivion, who, look at this, just look at this artwork. It's gross. And I love it. I feel like it fits that dark fantasy vibe that a lot of you apparently like on my channel. Now we're getting to the less spoily things that I think that everybody needs to know about. The coolest there's so many cool things about this module, but one of the cooler things is that the boss actually changes based on what's happening throughout those other chapters. As you progress through the adventure, people will change, they might die, etc. All of those little things actually contribute to who out of the 4 big bad guys you will pick, and there's actually a whole dynamic little tracker to help you figure that out, which we will get to shortly. But of course, the best part of this adventure is actually the time traveling bit. Your characters can teleport between each scene. There is the present, where they start, obviously. Then there's the beginning of the laboratory, where the dwarves are just starting to build the lab. Then there is the end of the laboratory, which is what happened right before the present, and how it ended. And your players, when they're all together in certain regions, can use their bracelets to teleport between these 3 different modes. And it's built in with a macro, and it's beautiful. Do note a couple things I noticed because I was an idiot. You have to have the scene that they're in active or the macro doesn't work, which is great. I'm just an idiot. Also, don't have the game paused. All you have to do is click that time traveling button, which is built into the journal entries, but I personally just dragged it down to the GM hotbar, also with the other little macro. But don't worry, there's also time traveling rules that you can explain to your players, and that kind of explains how the people react or not react to people teleporting into these spaces. Now let's talk about some of the other like fun bits outside of just the adventure. The layout itself is super clean, which honestly is a bit refreshing. I love a good design. You guys know me, done a whole bunch of other stuff about design, and I do love a good design, but sometimes simple and clean is the way to go. And I think for this one, that especially helps, since you are kind of going between 3 maps that are exactly the same and just in different time zones. So I think having a minimalist feel to the design works really well for this. I like the running the adventure section, which shows off the different styles, so you know what each box means and you don't have to like think about it. The only small con I see to this is the naming system, because each area is essentially the same. They look a little bit different, obviously. The journal entries are kind of spread across all 3 of those maps. Each is denoted with a B for beginning, a P for present, or an E for end. I honestly don't know how they could have done it better. I think this naming system is appropriate, but I am slightly dyslexic, mostly numbers, but sometimes letters can trip me up too. That kind of made it hard for me if I'm just looking at the journal entries. However, everything's also labeled on the maps very cleanly, very easily see all of the details, jump between journal entries pretty easily that way. So that kind of cleans that up for me. But just something I wanted to point out. Another great aspect of this module is that there are actually dynamic events. Have built-in checkboxes for you so that you can check things off as you go and as your players complete it. I absolutely love that. My organizational brain and soul are just in love with that. But to top that off, they actually included all of those checkboxes in an appendix for you as well. So you don't have to shift through all the journals to find that checklist. It's actually in a checklist in the appendix. I don't know why no one else has thought of that before, but it's freaking genius. Just to like touch base on some of these other things. Obviously the artwork I said is very lovely. The characters, like the NPCs are great. The monsters are great. They have tokens for everything. There are sound effects too. So obviously teleporting, you can hear some sound effects, but even in just each map zone, you can hear an ambiance for each of those, and that is also really lovely. There are roll tables included, so you can have random encounters and, you know, magic item tables as well. Obviously, we touched on the macros for the time travel, but there's also a macro built in for the GM region overview. So you can click this button and it'll show you where they can teleport, where certain things lead. And honestly, that's just a UI thing. It just makes life easier. That kind of takes this a step above, I feel like, because not a lot of people think about those types of things. It's so nice to be able to like click it and clear it so you can see what's going on in the map and then open it up to remind yourself of where those are. And of course, all of the stuff is labeled, which is great, but also all the tokens are on the map, so you don't have to think about it. And all of the tokens are like variant monsters. Like, I don't think anything is strictly from the SRD. I wasn't looking that closely, but everything seems to have some sort of variation. Even if your players are veteran players, you're gonna be able to surprise them a little bit with this one, which is great. Let's talk cost. Of course, this is its own section. You can subscribe on Patreon to the Ripper 93 right now at the master tier level and get this adventure. That means it's about $23. I think with tax in the US, it comes to $24. Eventually though, he is going to make this available for a single purchase license. So you would just pay that $23. That is great, but doesn't make sense to me. So if you're gonna do it, you may as well just go to the Patreon and do it through that, because you also, with the master tier, get access to all those premium modules, which I did a whole video, I'll put on the screen. I did a whole video about one or a few of his modules that I used. So you could try some of those as well and still have this, and you only would have to do it for a month, you know, and then you could cancel your Patreon subscription if you didn't like the premium modules. Remember, I didn't pay for this, but as someone who has bought modules for $30+ in the past and have been extremely disappointed looking at you, Watsy, this is honestly a steal, especially if you also download some of those premium modules on top of that. But even if you just bought this module, you can tell the time and effort, the artwork, the maps, the sound effects, everything being just built in, that saves you hours of time. And I'm all about time savers when DMing. So overall, I think this is crazy and I love it. I can't believe this is his first adventure module, is it? No way. It's just so well polished. The time traveling aspect scratches an itch I did not know I needed scratched. For any of my gamer friends, this gives me a lot of like Chrono Trigger vibes, you know, where you have like the past, present, future idea in that game and you're in the same areas. Like that, I got that vibe and I loved it instantly. This has hours of content. Like I could see easily spending 3 or 4 sessions in this module, more if your players are slow like mine. Like honestly, with my particular group playing 4 hours per session, I could see them taking probably half a year to get through this content. I'm interested to hear from you guys. If you guys purchase this, which I will put links down below for both the Patreon, straight to the Ripper's Patreon, but also a Foundry link if you want to read more about it, see the screenshots and stuff that he has there. But if you purchase it, please let me know. I would love for you to come back here, drop in the comments how the adventuring went, what you loved about it. Or, you know, you could join my Discord channel and chat with me there. We have a whole story time section there where I literally just live vicariously through other people's paywalls. And it's really fabulous. I'll leave the links down below again. And thank you, the Ripper 93 and your team for letting me get to see this, you know, early. It's not super early, but I was so excited. I feel like honored to be able to like do this kind of stuff. A special thank you to my Dancing Lights patrons, which right now is just one, you Bruce Cruz. So thank you so much for supporting me on Patreon. Pays for the content that you're seeing right now and lets me get to try new things and review things for people, and that's exciting. So thank you so much, and I will see you guys in the next video.